Democrats in Congress not treating this week like a vacation. The news tonight, a sharp escalation, a major effort to force transparency on Donald Trump. This is a story we first broke 8 months ago, election night, about Democrats using new legal powers to compel the president's taxes. I've spoken to a senior Democratic source on the Ways and Means Committee who says tonight, breaking news, they do intend to request President Trump's tax returns. We learned that election night news from our sources. Now, by April, House Democrats were invoking a special federal law to get the tax returns. It authorizes the House to act alone, meaning this is the rare move in Washington that Mitch McConnell cannot thwart. And like other Democratic efforts in the House, it is one that does take on Donald Trump and try to get some oversight. The Treasury Department defied this request. So what's happening? Tonight, the Democrats are striking back against that defiance by formally taking Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin to court. That's going to try to make them to comply with the law. And the fight not only puts new legal pressure on Trump, it also reminds voters about a broken promise.
If I decide to run for office, I'll produce my tax returns, absolutely. And I would love to do that.
He didn't. And he doesn't. The New York Times saw some of Trump's tax info a couple decades ago, and it showed $1 billion in losses despite claims of having a great business. It also showed evidence that he engaged in certain types of tax schemes. The Times saw them as, quote, outright fraud. So maybe those reports have something to do with why Donald Trump has broken his promise and continues to fight hard now in court to keep his taxes secret. I'm joined now by the one and only David Corn, who is not only Washington Bureau Chief for Mother Jones, and not only an author, and not only an MSNBC analyst, but someone who has made, I must note for this conversation, a nearly daily habit of tweeting, today would be a good day for Trump to release his tax returns. Take it away.
Well, that has become a little bit of my private mantra, my daily moment of zen. You know, we've been talking about his taxes now for 4 or 5 years, and he made that promise. He didn't keep it. And a lot of us have been wondering why the Democrats are moving as slowly as they have been to try to get them, because under the law, as you've talked about on the show, they have the right to ask for it, and the law says the IRS shall make them available. Well, they've been very, this isn't criticism, maybe explanation. The House Democrats have been very deliberative about this. They, I think, are worried about being portrayed by Trump as nothing but Trump hunters. And here they are. They've asked them for them quite legitimately. And Steve Mnuchin said, no, go away. I'm not going to follow the law. And they've followed suit now with this suit that you just mentioned. And to me, what's really going to be interesting here, beyond even the taxes, is that, and you and I have talked about this, we're getting to a moment. Trump has blown through so many norms. People have talked about whether we're in a constitutional crisis or not. But at some point in time, a court is going to order Trump or one of his minions to do something. And what happens when they say no? What happens if Mnuchin loses this case and the court says you must produce these taxes? Yeah. And he says I'm not going to do that.
Well, we don't know they're going to lose the case, but we
don't know that.
But we know, I'm going to partially agree with you, that we know that if you are a textualist or an originalist or a conservative reader of the rules, we'll put it up on the screen.
Yes,
it says written request from the chairman of the committee, the Treasury Secretary, that's Steve, shall furnish any return or return information specified. Law school has complicated sections. That's not one of them. It says, Steve, you must turn over the taxes. So you do think that they're going to lose this, and you think what, the Supreme Court will back up the Congress?
Well, if it goes up to the Supreme Court, then will we end up with a textualist decision or judicial activism on the part of justices who now say, well, we don't think that text means what it means? Trump has been making the argument.
You're saying this would not be a very Scalia argument if the court ultimately decided that shall means if you feel like it?
Yes. And, as you know, Trump's been making this argument that Congress doesn't have the right to do anything except legislate. They have no oversight powers, no oversight responsibilities. That's the basis of this legal argument here, which up to now has not existed.
Well, to be fair,
they're
to be fair, David,
Okay, let's be fair.
To be fair, that's why there was never a Benghazi Oversight Committee created, because that's not a legislative activity.
Or Fast and Furious,
or perhaps
or the Clinton campaign, financial scandal.
Would you like
None
to
of
take
that.
a look, before I let you go, would you like to take a look at Steve Mnuchin clashing with the Congress, because it's become sort of a thing?
Sure. I mean, I like the picture with him with the dollar bills, but let's roll the tape.
Well, as they say, David, as they say of Mother Jones, dollar bills, y'all. Roll the tape.
If you'd wish to keep me here so that I don't have my important meeting and continue to grill me, then we can do that. I will cancel my meeting and I will not be back here.
Thank you. The gentleman, the secretary, has agreed to stay.
You're instructing me to stay here and I should cancel.
No, you just made me an offer.
No, I didn't make you an offer.
You made me an offer that I accepted.
Please dismiss everybody. I believe you're supposed to take the gravel and bang it. That's
Please do not instruct me as to how I'm to conduct this committee.
Can we glean anything from that, or is that just normal Washington fighting?
No, that is a normal Washington fighting. It shows the disdain for the committee chairwoman, and it's a disdain that the White House and the administration is showing for legislative oversight. And they're going to keep doing this. Maybe they will run out the clock to 2020 November, and who knows what happens at that point. But they are all these great conservatives out there supporting Trump, who always believed in co-equal government and feared about the overreach of President Obama and executive actions and the imperial president. They're all turning their back, they're running away, they're ducking and covering, and they are not abiding by the written law as they've always celebrated it.
Now,
so all I can say to them is, Happy July 4th.
Happy July 4th. Before I let you go, is it possible that all of this is not of governing significance because Trump is hiding problems that affect government, but sheer embarrassment that he doesn't have the money he claimed? I'm sure you're familiar, David, with the musician J. Cole.
One of my favorites.
And, he always says, don't call me unless we're talking about commas. And, commas, you have to have quite a few commas that's real money. You get out to the million and the billion. Right. And so Donald Trump has lived a life claiming he has more commas than some people think he has. And while that might be embarrassing, and while some progressives and resistance and folks might want to know that, would you concede that embarrassing him over having less money than he claimed is not a great and valid government purpose? And it should be about more than that. And what if that's the only thing he's hiding?
Well, let's talk about fraud. One reason we have transparency laws in this country is that people can make informed decisions when it comes to deciding who's going to get their finger on the nuclear button. And Trump, it's not a law that you have to release your tax returns, but it is a norm. There are other laws that he has either violated or not paid heed to, the Emoluments Clause and other things. And so I think he ran on a false promise. He ran on lies. He said he had nothing to do with Russia. He was dealing with Russia while running for president on a very important business deal.
How many commas do you think he has?
Going back and looking
at... Do you think he has 4 or 3?
In terms of commas?
Yeah.
I got to do the math here. Okay, so at least
billion or million?
Well, but the thing is, you have to have the commas on both sides. Commas on assets, also commas on the debts. Wow. And that's where you get the bottom line.
David Corn taking the J. Cole analysis and bringing in some economics, liabilities. My team, the Beat team, is on it. And you mentioned something, and they pulled it. So for your goodbye, we're going to show you. There he is.
There we go.
The money man.
Yeah.
It's a real photo. It looks like it's from a movie, but it's actually America. Hey, I'm Ari Melber from MSNBC. You can see more of our videos right here, or better yet, subscribe to our YouTube channel below. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us, and we appreciate that.